I don't believe this is a law enforcement issue. We are so busy enforcing and keeping our citizens safe by arresting robbers and child molesters and home burglars that making criminals out of normally law-abiding citizens doesn't make sense.
That was Fresno County, California's sheriff on this program yesterday. She joined several other sheriffs across the country who are refusing to enforce COVID restrictions like lockdowns and curfews this holiday season. Tom Homan joining us now, a former acting director of ICE and a Fox News contributor. Tom, good morning. Thanks for being here this morning. Do you agree with that, these sheriffs going at it on their own and saying, we're not going to enforce this?
Absolutely. I think they're great American patriots. They understand that law-abiding U.S. citizens have First Amendment rights too. You know, these governors, these Democratic governors, they think that protests that turn violent and tell the police to turn a blind eye because they have First Amendment rights to gather and petition the government. They have that right. But law-abiding citizens don't have a First Amendment right to go to church or have family gatherings. I think these sheriffs are American patriots and they're following the U.S. Constitution. God bless them.
So weigh in on the broader problem right now. We've got a rising infection rate happening across the country, obviously, and we've got a hospitalization rate that is going up as well. Deaths are climbing in numbers. There's obviously a huge problem still with this pandemic and COVID-19 in this country. So many of these local municipalities are trying to do their best to enforce restrictions to stop the spread. You may agree with them or not agree with them, but then weigh in on it. How should this be handled?
No, look, I think the CDC made it clear. I think wearing masks when it's appropriate is the right thing to do. I think social distancing when appropriate is the right thing to do. But a governor can't legislate a law on his own. None of these, what the governors have done in these lockdowns, they haven't passed any law. There's no law that's been enacted by a legislature. They just decided to make a decision. And they want law enforcement out there, local law enforcement out there and enforce a non-law against U.S. citizens. At the same time, they refuse to let the same law enforcement officers work with ICE to arrest criminals and public safety threats off their streets or out of their jail, which is their job, to keep criminals locked up and keep our streets safe. They refuse that. It's hypocrisy that law enforcement can't do their job and arrest protesters that commit crimes or work with ICE to take criminals, public safety threats off the street. That's a no-go for these Democratic governors. But they can't have it both ways. They can't say, well, enforce this non-law against law-abiding citizens, and at the same time ignore criminal statute that actually was legislated by a law enforcement, a law body, either Congress or their state legislator.
Okay, so as you well know, Governor Andrew Cuomo here in New York does not agree with you. Listen.
How a law enforcement officer says, I choose not to enforce that law, I believe that law enforcement officer violates his or her constitutional duty. That's not a law enforcement officer. That's a dictator. So you're not a law enforcement officer. You can't pick and choose. And if that's the way you run your law enforcement agency, I don't consider it a law enforcement agency.
If these sheriffs don't abide, many of them who have said that, Tom, could they be held responsible then by governors like Andrew Cuomo?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. Governor Cuomo is stating misfacts here. He's lying to his people. There is no law. No law was enacted by his state legislature. If anybody's a dictator, it's him by pushing down this executive order without any input. And second of all, I say this. I'll say the same thing to Governor Cuomo that I said to Representative J. Paul during my last hearing. I pay a lot of taxes in New York now because I own property in New York. He works for me. He works for the New York State taxpayers. He's accountable to us, not the other way around. We're not accountable to him. So to him to vilify law enforcement for protecting the First Amendment rights for New York State residents, is abhorrent. It's insulting that a governor would say that.
Some of the restrictions, though, because the quarantine restrictions that he has put in place for his state, which are very strict and much stricter than many other states and have been for quite some time, that was issued by executive order.
Yeah, I get that. But the state legislature has not enacted any laws in the state of New York. Look, the problem is it's inconsistent across the country. But in New York State, Governor Cuomo has been vilifying law enforcement for years. It isn't just this COVID thing that now he attacks law enforcement. He's been attacking ICE officers. He's compared them to gangsters on the street. He won't allow law enforcement officers in New York to work with ICE. Him, along with the mayor of New York City, de Blasio, has knocked ICE out of the Rikers Island jail, which releases gang members and significant criminals every day. So let's not get things mixed up with Governor Cuomo. He's been against law enforcement from day one. He's been vilifying them for a couple of years. Okay. This is just his latest argument and why law enforcement is less than they used to be.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. As we listen to what you're saying and take that in, and we've heard what the governor has to say and some of these other Democratic governors across the country who have very tough restrictions on their people, you see and you say that you believe the CDC and the science, and it says to wear a mask, social distance. If that isn't going on, and that certainly isn't going on in some areas of this country, we don't like to think so, but it is. So should something be done at a local or state level to help enforce some of the things that we know significantly slow or stop the spread of this virus? Should anything be done to enforce that?
Yeah. Maybe the state officials can enforce it. Well, he's asking someone to do. He's asking local law enforcement to enforce something that isn't a law. And if he wants to send down executive order, then hold your state agencies responsible for overseeing that. But you can't tell the local law enforcement enforce a non-law, a law that hasn't been enacted by any state legislature, and attack law-abiding citizens in their First Amendment rights, while at the same time telling those same law enforcement agencies you're not allowed to arrest protesters that commit crimes, you're not allowed to take criminals off the street with assistance of ICE. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I mean, there was this large Jewish wedding, thousands of people. He's warning legal action against things like that. I mean, this is what's happening, and this is what a lot of these states are facing right now, as we all try to do the right thing, and people have different ways of doing it. Tom, great to have you on this morning. Did you have a final thought?
No, I think at some point, Sandra, we need to trust the American people to do the right thing. I mean, the American people know there's the COVID-19. I'm not belittling this. This is a significant issue we're dealing with. Hundreds of thousands have died. It's serious. But at some point, you got to let the American people take control of their lives. And most Americans, most citizens will do the right thing. And for those that don't, we'll hold them accountable. But you can't violate their First Amendment rights too, knowingly violate their First Amendment rights while protecting the First Amendment rights for people that are out there committing crimes. It's not the way this country is supposed to be.
All right, we appreciate your time this morning, Tom. Thank you.